lot of things politically that's happening and going on around the nation simply because it is the political season. But at the same time, there are other things happening in the world. And what I'm aiming to do, I'm making sure that I take the time to cover other stories as well, moving away from politics over the weekend, uh, unless it's absolutely necessary to report. If anything major develops politically, then I'll be talking about it. But at the same time, we've got to cover some of the other news. So always remember, Tyrone Bowman Live is an adult-oriented program. I do not make content for children. So parents, please be advised of this disclaimer when I'm talking about certain topics and issues. At the same time, because I want to make sure that many individuals are aware. For those of you who have subscribed to my channel, thank you very much. And I hope many more individuals will subscribe as well. You know, in the comments section, of course, I read all the comments. I try to read them as they're coming along, and sometimes I go and read them later on. I actually do take time to read the comments. Several people have been saying they would like to see me get like a better outfit, better set. Well, you know what? When some capital starts coming in, I can do better. But for now, we're going to use what we got. All right. An article from CNN entitled SpaceX Launches Mission That Aims to Return Long-Delayed Starliner Astronauts. So let's talk about this. A SpaceX mission due to unite the Boeing Starliner astronauts with the spacecraft that will bring them home has taken flight. NASA's Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore have now been on the International Space Station for more than 100 days longer than expected. Wow. So according to CNN, let's get down to this story. The SpaceX mission, called Crew 9, took off at 1:17 p.m. ET Saturday from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. NASA previously delayed the launch attempt from Thursday, rolling the spacecraft back to its hangar as Hurricane Helene threatened Florida and other parts of the southeastern United States. Mission teams reset everything at the launch pad Friday after the danger had passed. Unlike other routine trips ferrying astronauts to and from the space station under NASA's Commercial Crew Program, of which SpaceX has already launched 8, the outbound leg of this mission is carrying only 2 crew members instead of 4. NASA astronaut Nick Hugh and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexandra Gorbanov. 2 other seats are flying empty, reserved for Williams and Wilmore to occupy on the spacecraft's return flight in 2025. The configuration is part of an ad hoc plan that NASA chose to implement in late August after the space agency deemed the Starliner capsule too risky to return with the crew. Williams and Wilmore rode the Starliner to the International Space Station in early June for what was expected to be about a week-long test flight. At liftoff, Hugh and Gorbanov were strapped inside the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft, nicknamed Freedom, as it sat atop a Falcon 9 rocket. The launch vehicle roared to life, powering on 9 massive engines that sit at its base to thrust a 1.2 million pound or 544,300 kilogram rocket system into the air. After about 2.5 minutes, the first stage of the Falcon 9 rocket quit firing and broke away from the rocket's sound stage. The second stage then ignited its own engine and continued to propel the Crew Dragon capsule to more than 17,000 miles per hour or 27,360 kilometers per hour, or 22 times the speed of sound. As the crew blazed to faster speeds, the rocket's first stage guided itself back to land on a ground pad in Florida so that SpaceX could refurbish and refuse the vehicle. Let's read that part again. As the crew blazed to faster speeds, The rocket's first stage guided itself back to land on a ground pad in Florida so that SpaceX can refurbish and refuse the vehicle. Once the Crew Dragon capsule reached orbital speeds, the spacecraft separated from the Falcon 9's second stage and began maneuvering through orbit on its own using onboard thrusters to adjust its position gradually so it can link up with the international, or link up rather, with the International Space Station expected at about 5:30 p.m. ET Sunday. Thank you guys. You know, we had the opportunity to meet so many people that were involved with the Falcon 9 along the way. Hughes said on a NASA live stream after the launch, it was a sweet ride. Williams and Wilmore watched on September 6th as their Boeing built capsule returned from the station without them. Engineers had worked for months to understand issues with helium leakers and thruster outages that had plagued the Starliner's journey to the space station, and NASA ultimately declared too many uncertainties and risks existed to trust the vehicle to transport crew on its return trip. It's not clear when Boeing's Starliner might fly again. You know, many times people thought that Star Trek, remember Star Trek, the original one, Captain Kirk, and the subsequent movies that followed and the series that followed, people thought this stuff was far-fetched. You see where the world is heading to? You all think this is a joke. It's not a joke. Space life is already happening. NASA remains in the same situation it had been for 4 years, with SpaceX as the sole provider for the space agency's Commercial Crew Program, which was designed to hand over the task of crew rotations at the International Space Station to the private sector. Boeing and SpaceX were each awarded contracts in 2014, and SpaceX began flying routine trips in 2020, while Boeing had struggled to push Starliner development to the finish line. To get Williams and Wilmore home, NASA turned to SpaceX, opting to remove two previously assigned members from its Crew 9 team to make room for the Starliner's test pilots. The space agency announced at the end of August that NASA astronauts Stephanie and Wilson and Zena Cardman would be the members booted from the mission. Cardman had been set to make her first trip to space and was expected to be commander of the Crew 9 mission. Gorbanov, a Russian cosmonaut who got a seat via a ride-sharing agreement inked between NASA and Russia's space agency Roscosmos, remained on the crew, and Cardman handed over commander duties. The deposition on a space flight to Hugh, who had previously been named the pilot for Crew 9. Handing the helm to Hugh is both heartbreaking and an honor. Nick and Alex are truly an excellent team, and they will be ready to step up, Cardman said in a post on the social platform X after the announcement. I wish Wilson, Nick, Alex, and I could fly together. But we chose without hesitation to be part of something much larger than ourselves. Ad Astra per Asper, Go Crew 9. Speaking on NASA's live stream Saturday, Cardman acknowledged it was hard to watch the launch without thinking, that's my rocket, that's my crew. Meanwhile, Williams and Wilmore have folded into daily life on the space station. The duo transitioned from a lighter test mission schedule to taking on roles as full-time crew members, with Williams assuming the role of commander at the orbiting laboratory. Gorbanov and Hugh will join them after docking with the space station. When asked if he had trouble adjusting to the prospect of waiting months longer to get home, Wilmore said during a September 13 news briefing from the space station, I'm not going to fret over it. I mean, there's no benefit to it at all. So my transition was, maybe it wasn't instantaneous, but it's pretty close. Williams said she missed her family and was disappointed to miss some family events this fall and winter. But she added, this is my happy place. I love being up here in space. It's just fun. You know, every day you do something that's work, quote, unquote. You can do it upside down. You can do it sideways. So it adds a little different perspectives. So Till next time, never surrender, never quit.